Plamen Press is an Eastern European nonprofit translation press that does an amazing job translating a number of different Eastern European voices. So look out for his books as well. And I would also like to thank Carolyn Forche and the Lannan Center for helping us to organize this event, sharing your writers from Ukraine who are here with us tonight, and basically collaborating across the river, which is the most amazing thing. So we're building bridges, and they're going in all sorts of directions, and we're thrilled to see people here from all over the region. I'm so happy to have you. I'd like to finally thank my board member, Katherine Young. A year ago, I asked her to help us build our program and deepen our engagement with the Ukrainian community in Ukraine and here in the US. And she has done this in many beautiful ways and deepened our knowledge of Ukraine and of translation and the importance of really, really deeply engaging with the culture of a place and understanding the politics of language, the politics of war, and many, many other things. This is our fourth evening featuring Ukrainian writers. And we've been now to Columbia Heights, to Cleveland Park, Gatson at American University, and now here we are in Arlington for our final program of the year. The Cheuse Center is a global community of writers, translators, and readers. We believe that world literature is essential for meaningful lives. We imagine that the United States and world literature are part of diverse cultures that are still one humanity. America's issues become world issues, and the world's issues are America's. In curating the global and the local together in homes and in venues like this, we want to continue to have these conversations with you. Many of our writers are exiled from their country, but we don't need to be exiled from our country to feel like we don't belong. And so here in our salons, we want you to experience home, a place you are welcomed, listened to, and heard. We're named after Alan Cheuse. He was NPR's book critic for 30 years and a professor at George Mason. He wanted his students in Virginia to go on fellowships to see the world. His own heritage was really interesting. He was the son of a Jewish immigrant from Ukraine who was in Stalin's Air Force and shot down in the Japan Sea, his father, Alan Cheuse's father. And he made his way to San Francisco and then to New Jersey, and Alan Cheuse was born, and his brother were born here in New Jersey. We have many people in our audience who have Ukrainian heritage, who have grown up learning about that Ukrainian heritage. And it isn't unlike any other heritage in that we all come from somewhere, and we're all a part of an amazing melting pot here in Virginia and elsewhere. So if you'd like to keep coming to our events, you can sign up for our newsletter. We have bookmarks out on the table. And I'm going to introduce our moderator for the evening, Katherine Young, and welcome our poets who are here, Boris, Lyudmila, Ilya, and Carolyn. Thank you so much for coming. I know that Katherine is going to do such an incredible job that I don't want to keep standing here because she's going to take over and it's going to be amazing. Katherine is the author of the poetry collections Women Drinking Absinthe and Day of the Border Guards. She served as the inaugural Poet Laureate for Arlington, Virginia. She's translated Russian language prose from Russia and Azerbaijan and poetry from Kazakhstan, Russia, and Ukraine. Her translations have earned international awards, including an NEA, amongst others. Her translations of the book Look at Him by Anna Strobonitz was awarded an honorable mention for the Helt Prize for Best Translation in Slavic, East European and Eurasian Women's and Gender Studies by the Association for Women in Slavic Studies. Katherine Young.
Thank you so much, Leeya. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. You know, I am lucky to have translated a little bit of the work of Lyudmila Khersonsky, one of our guests tonight. And so I am particularly pleased that the Cheuse Center, in collaboration with our friends at Mason Exhibitions, where we are tonight, Plamen Press, and the Lannan Center, is bringing you our fourth program focusing on Ukraine in 2023. And I should also say, you know, prior to 2022, when I was translating a couple of Ukrainian poets, it sometimes felt that I couldn't even buy a publication for those translations, even for some of Ukraine's best poets. And I don't want to start on a down note, but I do wonder what it says about us as American readers and programmers of events that it took this terrible war for Ukrainian writers to finally have their voices heard in this country. So tonight, we're going to hear readings from two wonderful Ukrainian poets, Lyudmila Khersonsky and Boris Khersonsky. Both of them have recent collections out in English. And we'll also hear readings from In the Hour of War, Poetry from Ukraine, which is a new anthology from Arrowsmith Press that includes the work of both Lyudmila and Boris and 25 other poets. That anthology was edited by Carolyn Forche and Ilya Kaminsky, who of course are here also tonight. Ukrainian poets these days are lucky to have some really good translators translating them. And you'll hear the words of some of those translators tonight. And I encourage our readers, when you're reading the work in English, to please name the translators as you go along so we know who brought those words into English. So it is the job of the host to read author bios. But if I listed every accomplishment and every honor received by our four readers, I would still be reading when our time is up tonight. So I'm going to give you the very short versions, and you can learn more about all of our writers with a very quick online search. Carolyn Forche has published 5 books of poetry, including In the Lateness of the World, a finalist for the 2021 Pulitzer Prize. Her work also includes translations, anthologies, and a memoir, and she's a professor at Georgetown University. Ilya Kaminsky was born in Odessa, Ukraine, and now lives, of course, in the United States. He's the author of 2 poetry collections, Dancing in Odessa and Deaf Republic. His work also includes translations, essays, and anthologies. He is a professor at Princeton University now. Boris Khersonsky was born in Chernivtsi and has lived in Odessa for many years. A psychiatrist as well as a writer, in Soviet times, Khersonsky was part of the samizdat movement that some of you may know, which disseminated alternative, nonconformist literature through unofficial channels because it couldn't be published officially. He is the author of at least 17 collections of poetry in Russian and Ukrainian. Is that right? More? Okay. And in English, More. Okay. In English, he recently published the bilingual collection, The Country Where Everyone's Name is Fear, which is a joint collaboration with his wife, Lyudmila Khersonsky, who's also here with us. Lyudmila lives in Odessa. Her work has received several literary awards, and her poems have been translated into Lithuanian, English, and German. In the US, her work has been published in such journals as The Nation, Tikhon, and Plowshares. She's the author of 4 collections in Russian, and her most recent collection in English translation is Today is a Different War. The anthology that we're going to be reading from tonight, which, by the way, is published by a small press. If you feel the desire to buy the collection, it's for sale. Your dollars in buying these collections directly support the creation of more work in translation and directly support these writers. Small presses operate on a shoestring. So if you feel so moved, this would be a really good one to support because they have been bringing out multiple collections of Ukrainian poets recently. I also want to say just very quickly that, and our readers will be around after the reading is over to sign your books if you would like them signed. Just a reminder to everybody, if you have not already done so, please put your phone in poetry listening mode so that we don't hear your ringtone in the middle of a poem. I've been to a bunch of readings recently where that has happened. So we're going to hear from but all of our readers tonight, and I believe we're starting with Ilya, yes? Okay, please welcome Ilya Kaminsky.
Thank you so much, Katherine, for introductions. It's really wonderful to have a terrific poet be our moderator today. And of course, it's an honor to be here with you, all as a part of your community. As we have learned, the four of us, you have quite a wonderful community here. Thank you for making it possible to have this conversation about international literature. It is really quite an un-American activity, which I hope we will continue to pursue. And having said that, we are going to go around reading poems. The first poet we will read will be Boris, who will read his poems in the original, and each one of us will read a translation. So I'll read the first translation in English. As you might have noticed, I speak with a very heavy accent. So in the spirit of this evening, I hope we will also all end tonight by speaking with a very heavy accent. Boris Khersonsky. People carry explosives around the city in plastic shopping bags and little suitcases. They trample the cobblestone, will learn their secrets only the day after, and even then it is just checking the facts. How many windows shattered, how many collapsed balconies? Did anyone die, or is everyone alive and kicking? Only frightened that there is no more peaceful life, perhaps. War happens, and the loves of war are a cruel thing. And perhaps there are no more loves and explosions are now the norm. We don't get up from the tables, just shiver and shed some hope. An enemy chooses weapons as if finds the peak for the door, when, in fact, the door is already open.
По місту носять вибухівку в пластикових пакетах, господарських сумках і маленьких валізах, топчуть асфальт та бруківку. Ми дізнаємося про їхні секрети після вибухів. І це життя у політичних кризах. Скільки вікон вибито, скільки балконів упало. Є вбиті, чи всі живі, здорові, тільки налякані тим, що мирного життя вже не стало. Трапилася війна, а закони війни суворі. Або їх просто немає, і вибухи вийшли в звичку. Не встаємо із-за столу, тільки здригаємося та дивимося похмурніше. Ворог вбирає зброю, як злодій підбирає відмичку. А двері і так відчинені, якщо казати точніше. I would say that as Ilya, I speak in Ukrainian in accent, with accent. When I speak English, it is Russian accent. When I speak Russian, it is Jewish accent. And when I speak Ukrainian, it is Halitia accent. And it is true. And only language I probably could speak. Without language, I haven't learned. So I beg of pardon.
They printed in the medical history, translated by Katie Ferris and Ilya Kaminsky. They printed in the medical history, there was no Holodomor. It was the stable delusion of Anna Mikhalenko, a teacher of Ukrainian literature. For 7 years, she was in a special psychiatric hospital. It was a hybrid hospital, a madhouse and a prison. It was a time of hybrid hospitals. Now is the time of a hybrid war. 7 years is a biblical phrase. And Jacob served Laban 7 years for Rachel because he loved her. 7 years. Rachel calls for her children. She can't calm herself because they don't exist.
Вони написали в історії хвороби. Ніякого голодомору не було. Була стійка маячня Ганни Михайленка, вчительки української літератури. 7 років була вона у спеціальній психіатричній лікарні. То була гібридна лікарня, суміш дурдома і в'язниці. Тоді гібридна лікарня, зараз гібридна війна. 7 років біблійний термін, 7 років служив Яків Лавану за Рахіль, бо він любив її. 7 років. 7 років була Ганна Михайленка у психіатричній лікарні тому за Україну, бо вона любила її. Плаче Рахіль за дітьми своїми і не може утішитись, бо їх нема. Okay. Several words. Hanna Mikhailenko is a real personality which I knew very well. She really spent in a mental hospital 7 years. And when Gorbachev has agreement with Reagan, she was listed as one of the 20 dissidents who should be liberated. And she was liberated. I knew her before she was arrested and after she was released. She already died, unfortunately, but what really surprised me that after these 7 years in psychiatric hospital, he was nearly the same. Such a strong was her personality. So this small poem is devoted to her memory.
The devils have come, and they say we are angels. The hangmen have come, and they say we are brothers. They say we have come from the light, but in truth, they have come from the darkness. Did you really trust them, my country? Will it really be like this forever? That you will carry bastards in your basket to doze off in the dirt and awaken to fire? Why don't you respond? Why so silent? Translated from Ukrainian by Amelia Glazer and Yulia Ilchuk.
Прийшли чорти і кажуть, янголи ми. Прийшли коти і кажуть, що ми брати. Кажуть, прийшли зі світла, але насправді з пітьми, країна моя. То невже ж повірила ти? Невже буде воно так на віки віків, що будеш в подолі носити злодіїв, байстрюків, засинати у бруді, прокидатись в вогні? Що ж ти мовчиш? Що ж не відповідаєш мені? I should add a couple of words, as Babel said about his hero, that you always have a couple of words to add. I write generally in Russian until the beginning of the war in 2014. But I was bilingual, and so I started to write Ukrainian just to express my support to my country because of my inner force which made me to do with. And okay, some poems are in two versions, and some was written in Ukrainian. I didn't translate it into Russian. This is one of such poems.
The first translation I read was translated by Olga Livchin and Indrichenko. This poem I'm about to read was translated by Amelia Glazer and Yulia Ilchuk. What can I say today for my native Ukraine? What can I say today for myself? So, you're like an instant takeoff that leaves no coffee grounds dissolved in the abyss. And the abyss says, I won't forgive you. Not for your jokes, your grief, your indignation, because I look at you, but I cannot see you. And your life is like an electric current.
Що я можу сьогодні сказати про рідну країну? Що я можу сказати про себе сьогодні? Душе моя, ти як кава без кофеїну, що без залишку розчинена у безодні. І безодня каже, я тебе не пробачу, ні жартів твоїх, ні гніву, ні суму, бо дивлюся на тебе, але тебе не бачу. І життя твоє щось на кшталт електричного струму. Thank you.
On Psalm 91. And daily I read, 1,000 shall fall on thy side, and 10,000 to your right, but it will not come near you. Only thou shalt see with thine eyes. Try to imagine this. 1,000 corpses near you, 10,000 murdered at your right hand, and you stand and watch as if your body is half dug into the earth. And you see a cloud of all those eyes, and in your eyes, not a cloud. Translated by Nina Kosman.
Ось кожен день читаєш, впаде 1000 збоку від тебе і 10 000 праворуч від тебе, а до тебе ж не дійде. Тільки дивитися будеш очима своїми. Спробуй уявити це. 1000 трупів біля тебе, 10 000 вбитих по правицю твою, а ти все стоїш і дивишся, стоїш як укопаний. І дивишся у усі очі, і погляд твій не тьмяніє.
The Plamen poem was translated by Philip Nikolaev. Don't be scared, little boy. They're making a movie about World War II. If you live to see World War III, they'll make one about you too. But for now, admire the sandbags and the anti-tank hedgehogs. Aren't they cool? Do you like them? Please share your thoughts. Instead of camera cheering, you hear machine guns blasting motherfucker is a profanity. Only known as cousin. Russian Forche, go fuck yourself, is a good example. Don't that you feel when you grow up? it will be fun. The present is fun. You are watching the past. Don't worry. Do not be afraid, little one. It is just a movie, a story. The siren wails at night, folks run to a basement, helter-skelter. You will have your own tales to tell about sleeping at the bomb shelter with frightened people huddled against a damp wall. And how they film it without cameras, a merry film about war.
Не пугайся, маленький, это снимают кино о Второй мировой. Доживешь до третьей, будешь героем. Напишут книги про подвиг твой, а пока любуйся, мешки с песком, противотанковые ежи. Правда это красиво? Нравится? Ты скажи. Правда, вместо стрекота камеры тарахтит автомат. Ёб твою маму, ругань, она называется мат. Русский военный корабль, иди нахуй. Хороший пример. Не трогай свой перчик. Как вырастешь, будет нормальный размер. Сегодня все хорошо. Все это было давно. Не пугайся, маленький. Это просто снимают кино. Ночью гудит сирена. Нужно спуститься в подвал. Вырастешь, будешь рассказывать, как в убежище ночевал, как сидели люди, прислонившись к сырой стене, как без всякой пленки снимали веселый фильм о войне.
She dreamed of a humanitarian convoy. She dreamed a humanitarian convoy entered the city, covered with a sheet, head to toe. She sleeps, tucking her knees, always on her right side, while a wall watches her back. This is how one sleeps in the time of humanitarian wars. This is how in all times all tribes sleep, waking only from silence. Silence is a threat. During silence, do not open your door. There they are, humanitarians, with their inverted eyes. Translated by Вальжина Морт. Ночью ей снилось, что ввели гуманитарный конвой. Она спит, поджав ноги к животу, укрывшись простыней с головой. На одном и том же правом боку, укрывшись стеной со спины, так, как спят во времена гуманитарной войны. Так, как спят во все времена, все племена, просыпаясь только от тишины. Тишина страшна. Во время тишины нельзя открывать ворот. За ними гуманитарные человечки с головою наоборот. A country in the shape of a puddle. A country in the shape of a puddle on the map. Any country is an easy target in March, in June, July, August, September, October, as long as it rains and maps litter the street. Stop, who goes there? General oaken knees, red square of his naked chest shines the way, and behind him a half shadow, half man, half orphan, half exile, whose mouth is as coarse as his land, double land, where every cave is at war. Do you say there won't be a war? I say nothing. A small gray person cancels this 21st century, adjusts his country's clocks for the winter war. Translated by Вальжина Морт. This poem was written in 2014 when Russia annexed the Crimea. And of course, we had no idea of what would happen to our country in 2022 when a small gray person kindled the 21st century. Страна как лужа лежит на военной карте. На любую страну нападают в марте, июне, июле, августе, сентябре, октябре, пока дождь за окном и карты лежат во дворе. Стой, кто идет, генерал на ватных ногах, за ним человек без мира, а миру швах, миру шах, и мат трехэтажный, мат запрещен, так и будет мир на грани войны пещер, чемодан, чистилище, ад, перед ним вокзал. Кто сказал, что войны не будет? Никто не сказал. Маленький серый человек отменил 21 век, перевел стрелки страны на зимнее время войны. In a country where everyone's name is fear, in a country where everyone's name is fear, it's good that you don't see a thing and don't hear a thing. Say to anyone, not a thing. Slip nothing in your bra, keep nothing in your pocket. In both ears, nothing. In two eyes, nothing. Blind feet, no looking back, no looking back. If you look back, my brave, if my brave, you look back, my brave, you say nothing. When you arrive to a new destination, they will learn nothing from you. They will learn what nothing is. Translated by Grace Mahoney. В стране, где все боятся ничего, что ты ничего не видишь, ничего не слышишь, никому не скажешь, за пазуху не положишь, в кармане не держишь, в оба уха, в два глаза, в слепые ноги, куда глаза не глядят, уходишь, идешь, не оглядываешься, смелый, ничего не слышишь, никому не скажешь, а куда придешь в новое место, то и там ничего от тебя не узнают. Keeping house. Every time he leaves the house, she cleans, tosses out his old papers. Why does he need all these time-worn books? She drags out the sweeper, whisks away the scraps. He's only one man and all this. Then Eureka, under one pile a sardine can, a world atlas and a guidebook for Riga. He circles back home. Back home, everything's missing. His papers, his books, his sack of maps. Where's my black folder? He's fishing for it. Did you throw away my black folder? Yes, I'm sorry, it's gone. Her broomstick is in one hand, wet rag in the other. Her lips hold back a yawn. He crawls through a spill of old photos on the floor. Here, a small girl with a teddy bear. There, a grandpa in uniform, cap pushed down over his gray hair. Where are my parents? Dear God, my parents. You're going mad, she says. Come to the table. Your soup is growing cold. Get off the floor. Your parents are dead. Shloma. Уборка. Каждый раз, когда он уезжает, она убирает в дому. Выбрасывает старые вещи, бумаги, книги. Зачем, спрашивается, столько книг ему одному? Зачем ему атлас мира и путеводитель по Риге? Каждый раз, когда он приезжает, чтобы ничего не найти, он вверх дном перерывает дом. Где моя черная папка? Ты выбросила ее? Выбросила? Выбросила, прости. У нее в голове веник, в руках мокрая тряпка. Она хлопочет на кухне, муж сидит на полу. Суп уже остывает, а муж не идет к столу, ползает среди старых фото, выпавших из альбома. Вот девочка с Мишкой, вот дедушка в кителе. А где мои родители? Господи, где родители? Совсем сошел с ума. Твои родители умерли, Шлема. The War, Day 102. Hello. Please come into the house. Please excuse the mess. Yesterday a missile flew into the kitchen, piercing through several floors. It's inconvenient, nothing can be cooked. There was a stove here, a table there, with a small embroidered tablecloth. Don't take off your shoes. There are shards everywhere. Come into the hallway. It has 2 walls. Sit on the floor. I'll lay out a blanket. Help yourself to candies. Take some more. Make yourself at home. Translated by Филипп Николаев. Война, день 102. Здравствуйте. Проходите в дом. Ничего, что не убрано. Вчера в кухню прилетела ракета, пробила несколько этажей. Неудобно, ничего нельзя приготовить. Вот тут стояла плита, там был столик, небольшой, с вышитой скатертью. Не разувайтесь, тут повсюду осколки. Проходите в прихожую, где 2 стенки. Садитесь на пол, я постелю одеяло. Угощайтесь конфетами, берите добавки. Чувствуйте себя как дома. And the last one. Look at her. She's lost her tongue. What is it called? How to name each thing without language. And look, the boy who can't walk. He was also silent yesterday. His tongue sank, and so he beat himself on the lips, trying to make a sound. It did not work, and it did not work. And he waved his hand like he had done before and was spinning goodbye. Translated by Katie Ferris and Ilya Kaminsky. And this poem was originally written in Ukrainian. Actually, I'm a Russophone poet. I was raised up in the Soviet Union, so my mother tongue is Russian. My poetry is in Russian. My poetry is very much against present Russia, against Putin's Russia, and very seldom, I would say, I do poetry in Ukrainian, and hopefully I will be able to do both within a couple of years. Дивиться на неї, вона втратила мову, якою це все називається. Без мови ніяк не назвати. Хлопчик каліка не може ходити. Теж вчора мовчав, язик запав. Він бив себе по губах, хотів витягти звук, але не вийшло. І встати не вийшло. І замахав рукою, як він робив раніше, коли відвертався і прощався. Thank you.
In the days immediately following the full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, 2022, we managed to a couple of American poets and Ilya Kaminsky. We got together with poets in Ukraine, and we Zoomed with them. You all know Zooms. And there we were, all of us in our little window of the apartment house of war. And they were, some of them in cities that were already under attack, and some of them were in cities not yet under attack. But what we wanted to do was just read poems to each other and talk. And I remember it was dark, and we didn't know whether the internet connection would hold or not. We did it several times in those days, and it wasn't long after that that we had the idea to make this anthology. And so Ilya and I we were able to do this in 8 months. And it isn't arranged according to birth date or alphabetical order. It's arranged as if one poet wrote it. And so it tells the story of, some of the story of Ukraine. So it has 25 Ukrainian poets, including Boris and Lyudmila. At the first Zoom meeting, I knew I would have to say something, and I wanted to prepare. And so I wrote a little message to say, and it eventually, this little message, and I still think it's a message, got considered a poem. It was translated as a poem. So I guess it now is a kind of a poem. I still think it's a message. This is what I wrote for the first Zoom. If there is ink for this hour, if there is something to say, to write that would send the tanks, the convoys and transports into reverse on the roads they have rutted, send them back to the borders they crossed, send them back, and the hours too that have passed since dawn on the 24th day of the second month. Send those hours with them, and the enemy soldiers dragging with them their crematorium and the corpses of their fellow soldiers they have left behind, and their own wounded. Send them back if there is ink, if there is something to write that would raise the cities from the ruins, the apartment blocks, hospitals, schools, that would put the cities back as they were. I would give everything to fill my pen with it. It was translated into Ukrainian by Oksana Lutz, but Askold isn't here to read it, so I think we won't hear it in Ukrainian. I would like now to just share two poems from the anthology by other poets in the anthology. And the first one is a poem by Leszek Panasiuk, and it's translated by Katie Ferris and Ilya Kaminsky. In the hospital rooms of my country, letters of the alphabet go to war, clinging to one another, standing up, forming words no one wants to shout, sentences that are blown by the mines in the avenues, stories shelled by multiple rocket launches. A Ukrainian word is ambushed through the broken window of the letter A. Other countries watch how the letter E loses its head, how the roof of the letter M falls through. The language in a time of war can't be understood. Inside this sentence is a hole. No one wants to die. No one speaks. By the hospital bed of the letter E lies a prosthesis it's too shy to use. You can see the light through the clumsily sewn up holes of the letter theta. The soft sign has its tongue torn out due to disagreements regarding the etymology of torture. There is too much alphabet in the hospital rooms of my country. Too much alphabet. No place to stick an apostrophe. Paint falls off the walls, showering us with words incomprehensible, like men who, in wartime, refuse to speak. And this second one, thank you. The second one is written by Serhiy Zhadan, who is kind of a rock star. He's actually a rock musician in Ukraine. And he spent a lot of the early months of the war driving supplies around the country. So this is his poem. It's translated by Verlana Skach and Wanda Phipps. It's called Take Only What Is Most Important. Take only what is most important. Take the letters. Take only what you can carry. Take the icons and the embroidery. Take the silver. Take the wooden crucifix and the golden replicas. Take some bread, the vegetables from the garden, then leave. We will never return again. We will never see our city again. Take the letters, all of them, every last piece of bad news. We will never see our corner store again. We will never drink from that dry well again. We will never see familiar faces again. We are refugees. We'll run all night. We will run past fields and sunflowers. We will run from dogs, rest with cows. We'll scoop up water with our bare hands, sit waiting in camps, annoying the dragons of war. You will not return, and friends will never come back. There will be no smoky kitchens, no usual jobs. There will be no dreamy lights in sleepy towns, no green valleys, no suburban wastelands. The sun will be a smudge on the window of a cheap train, rushing past cholera pits covered with lime. There will be blood on women's heels, tired guards on borderlands covered with snow, a postman with empty bags stops down, a priest with a hapless smile hung by his ribs, the quiet of a cemetery, the noise of a command post, and unedited lists of the dead, so long that there won't be enough time to check them for your own name. I would like to just say one thing. It's a very vulnerable time for Ukraine. The war has been going on for almost 2 years. The US Congress is about to consider whether or not to keep helping. You can help Ukraine by getting in touch with your representatives and senators and tell them that you care about this.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thank you also for being so active in this past 2 years and also in this past many decades, helping others. Thank you. And of course, thank you for your own poems and translations. So when we were putting, thank you. When we were putting this book together, we wanted to have a mix of poets from different parts of the country and also from different backgrounds. So, for example, the first poet Carolyn read, Lyudmila. He is a relatively little-known younger poet, but we liked the poem, so we thought, why not put it at the very front of the book so more people learn about this poet's work. And this poet had an interesting story. He comes from a little town outside of Kyiv called Bucha, and you might have heard the name in the news, unfortunately. So the town was occupied by the Russian army. And when people come back, when Leeya come back, what she found was that there was an explosive device in the laundry machine left by the army. There were tiny explosive devices in the slippers left by the army. But that wasn't it. What really surreal, that struck me personally, is Forche is a kind of well-to-do town, lots of doctors and lawyers live there. So they did the tests. And they found a strange thing in their apartment building. They thought something was open, they didn't know what it was. And then they did the test for the level of nuclear radiation. And it was like 100 times above the normal. And they couldn't figure out why, and then they realized that the unit that came to Bucha went through Chernobyl. And so literally, a human being in the uniform who walked on feet across Ukraine to get to Bucha, it's not very close from Chernobyl, was literally so radiated that the apartment is uninhabitable now. So that was the first poet Carolyn read. The second poet, as was mentioned, is a super famous poet, a good literary poet and a novelist, but also happens to have an enormous audience and decided to drop everything and to deliver supplies, medicine to people. And the poet I'm about to read is another poet who is pretty much almost entirely unknown in the West. It's a longer poem, so bear with me. This is a person from Kharkiv, who's the city that was continually bombed for months. And this poet, Dmitry Bliznuk, which Kerry Ferris and I translated the piece, we did it because not so long before he wrote a poem, he literally had to bury his neighbors in his front yard because the cemetery was bombed. And I interviewed a bunch of poets from Ukraine, and one of the questions I asked him, what is happening to your language? And at that time he said, I'm refusing all the metaphors. I just want to do the documentary kind of poetry because I don't believe in prettiness anymore. And then he sent this poem, and it is full of metaphors, entirely made out of metaphors alone for 3 pages. And I'm like, well, what is happening? And he said, we had a heavy night, and I didn't know how to describe it in normal documentary language, and the only way I can say it was through this kind of figurative speech. So that is the poem. Take immortality, God, but give it the first line. Take immortality, God, but give me this cold apple cellar. Take souls and other toys, but let us live. Not Adam and not Eve, not your sons, my sons' life. That hole in the cellar with a wooden floor is a promised land. But no, we need cement floors and the smell of cats and mattresses and a bunch of solid blankets. The city breezes, though they poke us with missiles needlework. Watch. A tailor makes a city, a headless costume without hands. This is your human being, God, and not a retail display mannequin. This future is a door of mud glass, the color of red diamond. This door opens inside my chest every moment. Each breath in, it's a breath out, sometimes faster, sometimes not at all. In a time of war, the future jumps out like a frog, no, a grasshopper. 1 second, and there is nothing, no future, just emptiness, pulsating. In a peacetime, the apocalypse Azov is a measured strokes. But now the Matisse of a grumbling chuffs on us. And our land is decorated with bloodied fragments of cement walls. I see a soldier's head diving in snow after my neighbor Miss Valia. The murderers are lit from the inside by the saliva of their sick ideas. I see them 12 miles off. As those jump like pebbles on thick ice, the breast turns into a white seaweed. We are holding hands while night, hungry like an animal, sniffs at balcony's eyes, waiting. Is anyone here alive? The walls of this town are tossed out of the ground with their roots. The staircases are torn up like unfinished poems. the body, and the asphalt is black rat sleeping bag. Is that a person? I don't know. Is that a person? The evening jumps. We have no place on this earth, you and I, God. But you can drown in the sea of blood, sea free of people. Watch the centipedes of tanks crawling on their mechanical knees. Won't swallow this street, that street, this street. So that is Dmitry Bliznyuk from Kharkov. And the other thing that we wanted to do, which kind of came almost accidentally, but there's a story behind this inclusion. The poet is Ilya Mehta, who is by now a kind of modern classic of Ukrainian poetry. He died before the full-scale invasion, but people in Kiev spent weeks in a subway station underground because there's not enough bomb shelters. And so people need to do something, and some of them wrote books for them or poems. And his poems, I was told, were the ones that people often brought. So this is a poem that we wanted to include in the book from this poet, Oleg Lushaka, translated by James Bratsfeld. And he's an interesting poet. He's kind of a fairy tale-ish poet that uses naive word for kind of a dream speech. Song 352. When you need to warm yourself, when you're hungry to share a word, when you crave a breadcrumb, don't go to the tall trees. You will not be understood there though their architecture achieves cosmic perfection. Transparent smoke winds from the chimneys. Don't go near those skyscrapers. From the 1,000th floor, they might toss snowy embers on your head. If you need warmth, it is better to go to the snowbound garden. In the farthest corner, you will find the lonely heart of the horseradish. Yes, it is there, the poor heart of a horseradish. Is there a light on the inside? Yeah, he's always at home. Knock at the door of the horseradish. Knock at the door of his heart. Knock, he will let you in. And I will get out of your hair after these two relatively short poems. The first one is called Author's Prayer. Author's Prayer. If I speak for the dead, I must leave this animal off my body. I must write the same poem over and over. For an empty page is a white flag of their surrender. If I speak for them, I must walk on the edge of myself. I must leave a blind man who run through the rooms without touching the furniture. Yes, I live. I can cross the streets asking what is it. I can dance in my sleep and laugh in front of the mirror. Even sleep is a prayer, Lord. I will praise your madness, and in a language not mine, speak of music that wakes us, music in which we move. For whatever I say is a kind of petition, and the darkest days must I praise. All right, and the final poem from me is called We Lived Happily During the War. We lived happily during the war. We lived happily during the war. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested. But not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling. Invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous rain, in a house of money, in a street of money, in a city of money, in a country of money, our great country of money, we forgive us, lived happily during the war.
Please, some more applause for Lyudmila Khersonska, Boris Khersonsky, Ilya Kaminsky, and Carolyn Forche. Thank you again. And maybe in your heads, also a little a prayer of thanks or a clap of thanks for the translators who aren't with us tonight, but who brought us all of these marvelous words. So we have a few minutes for Q&A, and I'm going to start us off. And since Boris and Lyudmila have both talked about this issue, you are both born or native speakers, near native speakers of Russian. And after the invasion in 2014, as Boris pointed out, he made a determined point of speaking up and saying, I will no longer write in Russian and I won't speak in Russian, and I think he won't even teach in Russian, correct? And Lyudmila is also working to also now write in Ukrainian. But for us, and many of us in this room are poets, language is our tool. It's our stock in trade. It's how we make sense of the world. So my question is, how is it for you, first as human beings, but also as poets, to find that native language, that language of home and family and friendship and heritage, now changed, I'm speaking of the Russian language, now changed into the voice of aggression and enmity? And I also have a related question, which is, how has changing your language, that is the language in which you write, how has that changed or not changed your own writing as poets?
Well, it's a difficult question. We are very often asked this question, and the answers can be different all the times. Like, language is not just a tool. It's part of you. It's what you're born with. It's like a nose or a ear or birthmark. Like, it's there. You cannot just change it. You cannot switch to another language unless, like, you're a teenager and you have learned another language. It's not that easy. And of course, it's very difficult to be in peace with this language at present. And sometimes we have a conversation with this language like a dialect, but even this dialect is in the same language. It's not like there are two languages opposing each other. And it's very difficult for Russophone poets, for the poets of our generation, perhaps for people who were born in the Soviet Union, in the empire where Russian was everywhere. All my books, the books that I have read in my life, I read them in Russian. I read all my favorite foreign writers, foreign authors in Russian translation. So it has just penetrated in you, it's part of you. And it's easy to learn the language on the level like you go out, like in Italy now, we can speak some Italian. But for a person who writes poetry, for a person who is carrying all these books inside, it's not like just switching. You cannot just switch. You can switch to like small vocabulary, but you cannot switch to what you've had all your life. So it's a process. But at the same time, particularly when I just know there is like a new shelling or bombing or some other very, very serious tragedy happening in my country, I feel so angry with this language. We can walk speaking Russian, for instance, and we can hear Russian, and we have immediate reaction of anger. It is very strange, like for a normal person to have this kind of split identity. And again, I'm speaking for our generation, but still very many people of our generation are switching to Ukrainian. I don't know whether it's easy to do it in poetry, but that's how it is for me now.
For me, it is a bit different because I was born in Ukraine. I was studying in Ukraine, but I grown up in a Russian Russophonic speaking city, like Odessa was, and many big cities in Ukraine were Russophonic because of Russification. Actually, one of my friends say that if somebody defend Russian language, I am sure that his grandmother and grandfather didn't speak Russian. And for Odessa is totally right, because actually my grandmother and grandfather spoke Yiddish, and so they were forced to switch into Russian to survive in Soviet Union. As for me, Russian was only available language, but in school I started to learn Ukrainian. You can't imagine what a bad poems were taught in the Soviet school. It was about Communist Party, about greatest leader of world proletariat, Lenin. Actually, I saw a portrait of Lenin in university on the wall. So I feel that probably Lenin is still alive, as it was a song. And we, in Soviet time, changed this song like Lenin is still alive. Lenin